Welcome to the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. This is our 142nd episode on April 6, 2023. My name is Andy Zee. I'm the host of the show, coming to you from Los Angeles, California.
And my name is Sunsara Taylor. I'm the co-host of the Revolution Nothing Less show. And this is a show about the world and for a radically new world. And to get to that world, we need an actual revolution.
This week, headlines blared with the first indictment of a U.S. president, whether in office or not. These across-the-page headlines were not there to sell newspaper. This is a big deal. The indictment of Donald Trump on criminal charges is a further dramatic intensification of the divide at the very top of this society, of those who rule this country, a divide that they cannot bridge. The previous president, Donald Trump, being fingerprinted and booked, sitting as a defendant, is both a symbol of this unique time and an intensification, and potentially it could turn into a leap in the divide in the U.S. ruling class, a split, a divide that Bob Avakian has analyzed, quote, cannot be resolved within the framework that has existed and has held things together for nearly 150 years since shortly after the end of the Civil War, which led to the abolition of slavery. They cannot be resolved on the basis of the capitalist democracy that has been the normal means of capitalist rule, which in reality is a dictatorship for so long. The successive jolts that disrupt the way things have been, upending expectations in people's lives, could provide the opening for a real revolution to bring about a radically different and far better system without all the exploitation and oppression and imperialist war that threatens the very survival of humanity. That is what this show is about and for.
A real revolution is a force of millions of people coming from all parts of society, organized for an all-out fight to overthrow this system, to bring it down, and to replace it with a radically different and far better system, a socialist system with a new economy, a new political system, a new culture, on the road to real emancipation for people here and all over the world. And as part of working to bring this possibility of an actual revolution to people and putting this on the map right now in the midst of these shocks and jolts, we RevComs are organizing for May 1st, International May Day, for protests under the slogan, "We refuse to accept this system's future." A better world without exploitation and oppression is possible. So later in the show, Rafael Kadaris of our team here at the RNL Show will be talking with Michelle Xai, a leader in the Los Angeles Revolution Club, about plans and getting organized for May 1st. Before that, Andy and I are going to talk about this indictment of Trump and its significance in this moment. And a little later in the show, we're going to share a TikTok that went viral showing some of the footage of the April 2nd protests that the RevComs held against the threat of escalation with the U.S. and NATO against Russia, spilling into open confrontation and world war. And this TikTok went viral. We'll share some of the reaction to it. And then finally, at the end of the show, we're going to look at the incredible crisis at the border and this deathly fire that happened and where this comes from and why it calls out for a real revolution.
To start today's program, we want to begin with a short film clip from an interview that Sunsara and I did with Bob Avakian this past fall. Bob Avakian's a revolutionary leader who comes out of the 60s and has developed an understanding and a science of revolution, of communism, and a vision of an entirely new, a radically new society. This particular film clip that we're going to show you speaks to a lot of what's on today's show. He begins with describing this split in society and the fascist movement that has emerged. He's done a major theoretical work on this called Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating, Profound Crisis, Deepening Divisions, and the Looming Possibility of Civil War and the Revolution that is urgently needed, a necessary foundation and a basic roadmap for this revolution. And this short clip doesn't go into all of that, but when you get done watching this show, you should go on our website, revcom.us, and check that out. He also is going to be speaking in this about the danger of war, which is another segment of today's show that Sunsara spoke of. And you're also going to be seeing a clip from our newspaper, revcom.us, on the immigrants or people, the refugees who were burned in a fire. But one of the things you're going to get from Bob Avakian is this tremendous heart and soul for the masses of people and for the potential for them to change and for us to change all of society. And what this brings him to is a hardcore understanding of the need for an actual revolution. Before going to the film clip, I just want to say this about Bob Avakian. On the basis of decades of hard work, Bob Avakian's been developing a whole body of work, the theory to understand and to advance the science of communism, to advance the science of revolution, and to more deeply explain where the problems that we face come from and what the strategy is for getting out of the mess we're in, and what the methods and approaches should be to stay on track and actually build a better world, to build a society that most human beings would want to live in. And so with that, let's go to this short film clip. And when you're done watching the show, go and watch the interviews, all 3 interviews we did with Bob Avakian this past fall.
Richard Pryor, back in the 70s or whatever, had this routine where he'd say, they're talking about these fascist types, these Nazi types, these types that are now the MAGA people, And he said, brothers say they're not afraid of no Nazis. Hey, Mr. Nazi! He said, but if you actually see a real Nazi, you're going to be running fast as you can run. Well, and then he went on to say, you got to understand, they got all these people down in the basement, chained up down in the basement. And you don't want to see those people get off the chain and out of the basement, because they are going to come after you, and they're going to come after everything that you hold dear. Well, the fact is, those people are out of the basement and off the chain. We could talk more about why, it gets more, we have to get more into things. But they're out of the basement and off the chain, and they have no intention of going back. So, and then the Republican Party unleashed this base, and now there's this kind of back and forth, or a dialectic, as we say, where the base is imposing necessity on the official politicians to go along with it, and then when the politicians go along with it, then that gives even more encouragement to the base to become even more rabid. And there's no way these people are going to settle for the continuation of limitations, not the ending, just any kind of limitation on white supremacy, male supremacy. You can't have all this gay stuff, all this trans stuff, blah, blah, blah. There's no way they're going to accept any of that, even this impartial and ultimately not that significant concessions. So, they're not going to let a government come to power that is illegitimate in their eyes because it's making concessions to all these things that they think are completely intolerable. And that's why you hear them say, this is war. When do we get to start shooting? All these kind of things. Well, they're not, and you hear the Democrats complaining that the Republicans, are, a threat. Even Biden now started to call them semi-fascists. That's about as much as he could go. When they're, just outright blatant and aggressive fascists. White supremacists, male supremacists, all the things I was running down. So the Democrats keep complaining, well, they're not playing by the rules, they're not going by the norms, they're breaking the norms. At the same time, the fascists are openly and aggressively saying, yes, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to break all these norms because these norms are leading this country into a shithole. And, we can't go with that anymore. And so they're not willing to go along with the normal stuff that's been happening. Okay, that's why you could get, besides what's going on in the international arena, with a growing threat, people should wake up, the growing threat of nuclear war, and with the U.S. provoking China, U.S. imperialists, Biden, Nancy Pelosi, provoking China over Taiwan on the one hand and backing Ukraine against, yes, real Russian aggression, but the U.S. is not opposing that because they want to liberate people anywhere. They're the biggest enslavers of people on the entire planet. But what they do want to do, and the Secretary of Defense openly said they want to weaken Russia. So they're arming and backing and giving intelligence and planning and everything. They're basically using Ukrainian troops to fight Russia at this point, with American and its NATO allies arming them. This is, and now you got Putin talking about if Russian integrity and territory and the Russian people are threatened, we'll use, he said it twice, we'll use every weapon at our disposal. So that means nuclear weapons. And then the U.S. says, well, if they use even tactical nuclear weapons, there will be a very heavy price to pay, and we've told the Russians what that price will be. What the fuck are they talking about? They're talking about the future and the existence of humanity with this Russia thing and China thing, and then there's a whole environment which you see what's happening with it. Countries, a third of Pakistan underwater, to just cite, and the recent hurricanes, which are worse because of the warming of the oceans and other things. So, all this is going on, and there's no way they can put this all together on the terms in which they ruled it for all this time. And that could lead to something, just think about what I was just talking about, something really terrible, but it also provides an opening because all this shakes people awake. I mean, look what happened when they overturned Roe v. Wade and the right to abortion. Millions of people who went along thinking, oh, they'll never really do that, and things are okay, and things will work out, got really, shaken down to their toes by what, and people are still extremely upset about this, and these kind of things are going to keep on happening, and this is going to shake people out of the sense that they can just, things are just going to go along the way they always have. They're going to cause people to question things. And then you got the people at the base of society who are always catching hell, but are caught up in a lot of bullshit. And life is going to get even worse for them too. And this is where the revolutionaries come in. Because left to itself, all this will go only one way, to something terrible. But this provides a greater objective basis to actually break the hold of this system over people and to win them to see the need to uproot and abolish this whole system, and to understand that we can no longer afford to allow these imperialists in this country or others to have the fate of humanity in their hands with the extremely dangerous and increasingly existential threat that poses to human civilization. And among these basic people right at the foundation of society, the people catching the most hell, we can go to them, and we need to go to them and explain to them what's going on in very simple terms, maybe a little shorter than what I just did. But give them a basic understanding of what's going on and what their role can be and needs to be in terms of transforming this terrible situation into an emancipating situation by building up, not going at the system all out right now when all you could do is get crushed, but building up, putting revolution on the map. Putting a scientifically based revolution on the map in terms of youth from among the basic people, youth from among the educated, the college educated, but especially the people catching the worst hell, taking the stage, and we can and have to say to them, this is your mission. This is your mission, to put revolution on the map. Not all this garbage that people think is, want to think is the way to go, all this, I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind and dogging down the women and all this bullshit. Put revolution on the map. Put it on the map by standing up against this system. You want to do something that takes heart? Take on this system. Stand up against this system and all of its atrocities and build up the forces of revolution so that we can create the conditions where we can have millions of people ready to go for the whole thing. Similarly to what you see in Iran now. I mean, I don't know where that'll go. You need leadership for it to go to revolution. Our comrades there, the communists, in Iran, the people who've taken up a new communism, they're striving and struggling to win leadership and give leadership in that situation. But that kind of massive upheaval, you have that, and then you have an organized leadership with a scientific method and strategy, then you can direct all that toward the actual struggle to bring this system down, and you can actually have a basis to defeat and disintegrate what are now very powerful institutions of armed enforcement of this system. It's not where we're at now, but that's the mission that people need to take up. And all these youth in particular who are caught up in going at each other need to turn around, lift their heads, not act in the way the system wants them to act, not act in the way that it tells them is the only thing that they're good for, but act as emancipators of humanity, and act to get rid of all the madness that they are put through, and people just like them all over the world are put through, which is the reason why they act in such crazy ways, because they don't see a way out of that. And we, with a scientific method and strategy, have to provide them, give them the way out of that, and nothing less than that.
This week, Donald Trump had to appear in a Manhattan courtroom and was arrested and charged with 32 felony criminal charges in association with hush money he paid to a former porn star to cover up an alleged affair. He's accused of doctoring his books to hide this, and having done so in association with trying to influence the 2016 election. So I think it's very fitting, Andy, that we start our conversation about the significance of this coming off that clip we just played from Bob Avakian, from the interviews that we did with him. Because the fact that Trump was arrested, it's unprecedented. A president, a former president, it's never happened before that they've faced criminal charges. The fact that this has happened is a huge escalation of this extraordinary time that Bob Avakian was speaking about that we're in, when the rulers are at each other's throats. This country is deeply divided from the top to the bottom. And what Bob Avakian spoke about in that clip, where one section of the rulers is fighting desperately to enforce and hold on to the norms and the laws as this country has been governed. And you see that with the section of the Democrats and the ruling structures pressing charges against Trump for just some of his many, many crimes. But the other section of the rulers is saying, fuck your norms. We won't be bound by them. Threatening violence, all kinds of just eager to shred these norms in pursuit of a whole fascist future that they're urgently fighting to bring into being. And I think this case both sits in that context and is an escalation and intensification of that divide.
It's an example of the fact that they can't rule in the way they have for 150 years. And people don't pay attention to that question at their own peril, and at the peril of not just people in this country, but humanity. Listen to what Fucker Carlson said. He says it almost feels like they're pushing the population to react.
Probably not the best time to give up your AR-15. And no matter what your politics, that's exactly right. If you believe in our system and you want it to continue, you have to raise your hand and say stop, because this is too great an assault on our system, much greater than anything we saw on January 6th, that's for certain.
Two things there. Hold on to your AR-15, and much greater than January 6th. These are people, as we've said, for 6 years now, these people are preparing for civil war. And on the other side, you know, what does Andrew Bates, who's one of Biden's advisors, say? He says, the president's been doing this country's business by keeping his schedule just like any other day of his administration. And we have a whole bunch of things from all kinds of progressives we'll get to maybe later on about who it's all good, it's all good. This is democracy working, this indictment. No, this is actually upping the ante. But I think we should go right to the horse's or the ass's mouth. We should listen to what that wacko said in Waco, Donald Trump. And I said wacko, but I am fully cognizant of the fact that to be a fascist you're not disqualified from being a fascist by being a wacko or a buffoon. That buffoonery and that craziness is part of how you show a social base that you don't give a fuck about the political norms of this country.
And 2024 is the final battle. That's going to be the big one. You put me back in the White House, the reign will be over, and America will be a free nation once again. Enemies are desperate to stop us because they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. They know that. You know, there's never been a movement like this in the history of our country, probably in the history of almost every country. The sinister forces trying to kill America have done everything they can to stop me, to silence you, and to turn this nation into a socialist dumping ground for criminals, junkies, Marxists, thugs, radicals, and dangerous refugees that no other country wants. No other country wants them. If those opposing us succeed, our once beautiful USA will be a failed country that no one will even recognize, a lawless, open borders, crime-ridden, filthy communist nightmare. That's what it's going, and that's where it's going. I used to say that we will never be a socialist country. I said it oftentimes. I said it once at the State of the Union address, and people didn't understand what I was saying. But I'd shout it out loud, and I was right, because that train has passed the station long ago of socialism. It never even came close to stopping, frankly. We're now in a Marxism state of mind, a communism state of mind, which is far worse. We're a nation in decline. Our enemies are desperate to stop us because they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. They know that. This room, so important, the people in this room. They know that we can defeat them. They know that we will defeat them, but they're not coming after me. They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. That's all I'm doing. I'm standing in their way. And that's why I'm here today. That's why I'm standing before you, because we are going to finish what we started. We started something that was a miracle. We're going to complete the mission. We're going to see this battle through to ultimate victory. We will liberate America from these villains and tyrants who are looking to destroy our country. No matter what they throw at us, no matter what they do to us, we will not bend, we will not break, we will not yield. We will never give in, we will never give up, we will never, ever back down.
Sunsara, I think we have to let that sink in, and we have to let the audience let that sink in. This is not just the rantings. They're rantings with a message and with a purpose and with a social base that's mobilized. 2024, Trump said, is the final battle. That's going to be the big one. Our enemies are desperate because we're the only ones who can stop them. Sinister forces are trying to kill America. We'll liberate America from these villains and tyrants. This is the language of fascism, with the intent of fascism, and with the people who can actually carry this forward. A base is hardening. And all this idea that this is just evaluating this from within the charges of this economic malfeasance misses the point of what's actually happening here. Yes, the Democrats are filing this indictment, and they may file others, but you are dealing with a force that's determined to rule other than by the rule of law. And this show, the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, we don't make any bones about the fact that this law in this country and the Constitution that grounds that law is nothing but an exploiter's nightmare for the masses of people, an oppressive system that was founded on slavery and genocide. But there is a point to the rule of law, and this is a complete wiping that off the table to rule by brute decree, brute force, and thuggery, both of the state and of these fascist MAGA thugs.
Yeah, I think people really need to. You're right. Let what you heard sink in that quote from Trump and from Tucker Carlson, as you said, much more appropriately. Not a good time to give up your AR-15s. You also look at what Trump did in reaction to the indictment. He put out a picture of himself wielding a baseball bat up against the black district attorney who was indicting him. And this from a man who everybody knows unleashed the January 6th violence, whose followers were brought a noose outside the Capitol. You know, this from a man whose social base has been unleashed. This lunatic broke into Nancy Pelosi's home and assaulted and hospitalized her husband. This is a violent fascist social base, exactly like you're saying. And Trump is, it's not they always use that word, the dog whistle. It's not a dog whistle. This is a foghorn blowing. And it's right out there. And people need to wake up to what they're facing, what this means, the white supremacy, the vicious male supremacy, the misogyny that's dripping from this, what Trump's Supreme Court has already done to women's right to abortion, what more is coming down the pike We didn't play the parts of the speech where he goes after trans people, LGBTQ people, the nightmare that he is threatening and determined to lock into place. And then I think it's worth it. I know you pulled some things from the Democrats too. We have to look at what's the other section of the ruling class and their mouthpieces saying in response to all this.
Well, Sunsara, let me just speak to one of these shills for the Democrats and the progressive social Democrats. Chris Hayes said on MSNBC, but I want to then come back and stay a little bit more on what Trump had to say. Anyway, this Chris Hayes, I think this was a tweet, and maybe he said it on the show too. He said, Donald Trump is a very unpopular figure, and the Republican Party tied its fate to him. It's been and continues to be a political disaster for them. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. So look, Mr. Hayes doesn't have to overthink this thing. He doesn't have to worry about overthinking this thing, but he's got his eyes blind to the reality of what's actually been developing and is developing now with this fascist movement in this country and the upping of the ante by these trials. And he's blinded also to the history of how fascism developed. And he's also blind in the sense that he's deluded himself and his listeners and his readers to that America can be perfected, and not to look at the actual system that underlies this. But let's just go back to Trump. He says they've made this country into a socialist dumping ground, including and he ends up on dangerous refugees that no other country wants. No other country wants them. Our beautiful USA, lawless, open borders, crime-ridden, filthy, nightmare. This is a part of the fascist program of xenophobia and racism, open white supremacy against these immigrants. And we know what he did, from the Muslim ban to building the wall to all of this stuff. And now along come the Democrats saying we're not going to do that. And yet the policy they are taking on the border is the exact same thing. They're carrying forward the Trump policies. Now they're even deporting whole families across the border. Why? Because they're hypocrites? Well, to the degree they are. But the more important point is that their system has no answers. They destroyed these countries around the world, and particularly in Latin America. People have no futures. They're coming here to be able to survive, and they are treating them and saying, we have no way to deal with you. And this is just one example of why we can't rely on the Democrats here. They want to apply their rules to the fascists, but the fascists aren't playing by those rules. And yet they're doing the same thing. Oh, they took a knee. They took a knee in Quinta Cloth, in the Capitol. And then 18 months later, they're saying, fund the police, fund the police, fund the police. This system has no answer.
And meanwhile, they're playing Russian roulette with potential nuclear war in this conflict in Ukraine, where they're upping the ante up against Russia. And we don't know what will happen. This is not both sides, like you're saying, the Democrats are a party of war crimes and crimes against humanity. And these Republicans are fascists. And meanwhile, these Democrats, and what's being signaled by Chris Hayes and what's being signaled by a lot of these Democrats who are talking about law and order and Trump will have his day in court finally, they are pacifying people who are on the non-fascist side. They're telling them, don't worry too much, just relax, things will work themselves out, and they won't. Which is precisely where, to harken back to what we just heard from BA, it's precisely where the revolutionaries come in and where we need to be out there as people are, as the ugliness of this system is being more and more laid bare, and people, the norms that they've been conditioned to accept that have made them feel that this illegitimate system was legitimate, because at least it played by these rules for many generations, these are being ripped up as people are being forced to question and forced to look at things in a new way. We have to be out there leading people to stand up against these fascists who are coming after the people and their rights. We need to be leading them to stand up against this, to defend the rights of the people, to defend people under attack, but to do this while lifting people's sights to and getting them organized for an actual revolution to bring this system down. This system's, it's exactly what BA said, this system's time is up. It is long past time that they have the right to rule over the masses of people and determine their future. And they're divided now, and this has to be seized by those who yearn for a different future for ourselves, for the people of the world. This is it's very urgent and dangerous on the one side, but it also holds an opportunity if we can recognize it and dare to act on that.
Sunsara, the need to act is indeed very pressing on people. It's very pressing on humanity. We began talking about May 1st, that we refuse to accept the system's future. A better world without oppression and exploitation is possible, and now is the time to get organized for a real revolution. I spoke last week about the two existential crises we're facing and the danger of world war and the environment. But here, today, we're speaking about a different existential crisis, an existential crisis that is part of potentially making revolution possible. The crisis between, at a moment when fascism is literally breathing down our necks. And forget all the bullshit from the social democrats and the Democrats that this is just part of the electoral thing and don't worry about a thing. This is absurd. These are people are serious. Trump, as we began, said this is the final battle. 2024 is coming, and this is when they're going to right all the wrongs of this society and get rid of the vermin and the kinds of language they use to describe the oppressed people in this country. And their opposites in the Democratic Party should tell you something about their being serious. This is a point that we've made several times on this show, and we have to get to the place where all of you are joining with us in getting to the point where, should these people make a move on power, we're prepared to defeat these fascists, but not to go back to what has been, with all the police murder, oppression of women, the horrors on the borders, the devastation of the environment, and the threat of the war, which is all the system that these Democrats enforce every day of their rule. This is what it means when Andrew Bates of the Biden administration says Biden's at his desk doing his job. His job is to administer this system, which is what's causing all the misery in the world. And to you, you need to get with the RevComs, and you need to get with us now before May 1st, because on May 1st, we need to make a major leap, a major advance in putting revolution on the map. Now, we can say that on this show. The RevComs are going to say this at May Day. But without you there too, it's not going to be the same. Because this, to get ready for revolution, is going to take first hundreds of people and then thousands of people and ultimately millions of people breaking with this system and going to not just oppose the horrors that are happening today and coming, but the fact that we could bring about a radically different world, a socialist society, a real socialist society, not social democracy, but a socialist republic in North America, according to the Constitution that Bob Avakian developed. And what is socialism? It's a whole different economic system that's not based on exploitation and profit for the few. It's a different political system that gives political power to the people who've been oppressed by this system and increasingly involves them in the affairs of society to go to work on overcoming all forms of oppression. And it's a transition as we work on those problems here and around the world and support revolution around the world. We're moving towards a world where there is no more oppression and exploitation, and that's a communist world. This is an incredible possibility in this moment in history. There's the technology, there's the knowledge, now there's the theory to get us there in the new communism developed by Bob Avakian. So now's the time to get involved. And like I said last week, it doesn't happen if you don't get involved. And like I said last week, it can become too late to do this. These fascists are on the move. The Democrats have no answers, and they're on the move with their own resolution to this, which seems to be escalate the war in America, über alles, dominating the entire world. We have a different future. There's a different future in this revolution. So get with the RevComs, get involved in May 1st, watch the rest of the show, and we'll see you next week.
Points of attention for the revolution. The Revolution Club upholds, lives by, and fights for the following principles. 1. We base ourselves on and strive to represent the highest interests of humanity, revolution and communism. We do not tolerate using the revolution for personal gain.
2. We fight for a world where all the chains are broken. Women, men, and differently gendered people are equals and comrades. We do not tolerate physically or verbally abusing women or treating them as sexual objects. nor do we tolerate insults or jokes about people's gender or sexual orientation.
3. We fight for a world without borders and for equality among different peoples, cultures, and languages. We do not tolerate insults, jokes, or derogatory names about a person's race, nationality, or language.
4. We stand with the most oppressed and never lose sight of their potential to emancipate humanity, nor of our responsibility to lead them to do that. We work to win people of all backgrounds to take part in the revolution and do not tolerate revenge among the people.
5. We search for and fight for the truth no matter how unpopular, even as we listen to and learn from the observations, insights, and criticisms of others.
6. We are going for an actual overthrow of this system in a whole better way beyond the destructive, vicious conflicts of today between the people. Because we are serious, at this stage, we do not initiate violence, and we oppose all violence against the people and among the people. Hi, I'm Rafael Kadaris, and I'm very happy to have Michelle Xai in studio. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Michelle is a leader of the Revolution Club here in Los Angeles, and she is organizing for Revolutionary Internationalists May 1st. So why don't we're going to be getting into the Revolution Clubs, what they're all about, why you should join them. But why don't we start with what is May 1st and why should people be part of it?
So this May 1st, we're going to be taken to the streets with these slogans. We refuse to accept this system's future. A better world without oppression and exploitation is possible. No U.S.-NATO war with Russia. Stop U.S. threats against China. No World War III. It's this system, not humanity, that needs to become extinct. Now is the time to get organized for a real revolution. This year, we're out to put revolution on the map, right? And May 1st is a stepping stone to doing that, right? And the Revolution Clubs, as an organized, force to powerfully represent for this revolution, is going to be an important way that new people are stepping into this revolution, are getting out there on May 1st, manifesting these slogans, and are growing from now until then and going forward.
So let's talk a little bit more about these revolution clubs. They have two principles: humanity needs revolution and the new communism developed by Bob Avakian, and fight the power, transform the people for revolution. So why don't you say a little bit more about the revolution clubs, what they're all about?
Yeah, so the first one, humanity needs revolution and the new communism brought forward by Bob Avakian, is really like the world is a nightmare and it doesn't have to be this way, right? And at the core of these revolution clubs are followers of Bob Avakian, right? Who are taking up and are leading, with the new communism, right? And are bringing forward other people, right? To learn about this revolution, to be part of powerfully representing along with others, for this revolution and getting deeper into what this new communism is, right? For everybody who hates the way the world is, who's sick and tired of living in a world where people are treated as less than human, you have to be part of this revolution club, right? Yes, bringing all your questions and this is where, the second slogan comes in, right? Fight the power and transform the people for revolution, as we're out, mobilizing people around standing up against these injustices that this system brings down on people, right? And in the moment where these fascists in and out of government are like, these women-hating, racist, anti-LGBTQ, thugs that are, that are attacking people, the Revolution Club being out there really like, standing up and defending people's lives and their rights. And at the same time, as we're winning people to the scientific understanding that it doesn't have to be this way, that it is this system of capitalism, imperialism that brings down all of these horrors on people here and all over the world, and that we are determined to overthrow and preparing for the time when we can overthrow this whole system and replace it, and bring about a whole different society and world, right? That is in this constitution for the new socialist republic, in North America, right? Written by Bob Avakian.
You've been talking about what the revolution clubs are all about. What's it like to be part of these revolution clubs? What's a day in the life like for a revolution club member?
what we base ourselves, right, is on this understanding that the world doesn't have to be this way, right? And going deeper to understand, okay, what does that mean? What does it mean when we say that it's this system that, you know, that brings down all these horrors, right? What is this strategy, and who is this leader, right? And, you know, as one new member has said, right, feeling like before they met the revolution, feeling like they were just ranting about this and feeling alone, right? Their friends telling them like, just shut the fuck up already, you know, like why are you still talking about this if you ain't gonna do shit about it, if we can't do shit about it, right? And actually and feeling like after they linked up with us and is learning more about what this revolution is and is running with the revolution, that they found their people, right, that are not just ranting about this, but that there's actually a way to put an end to this, right? And they're learning more about what this revolution is all about, and at the same time getting out and spreading the word about this and representing for this revolution. So, you know, and at the same time, you know, like with a lot of questions, right? With a lot of questions, with a lot of, excitement about like learning more about this, right? Another new member of the Revolution Club, you know, recently had a question about this April 2nd protest, and kind of, you know, was like, well, isn't the US kind of, shouldn't we be backing up the US and actually like helping some of the Ukrainian people, because that's what the Ukrainian people like want, right? So we had a Revolution Club meeting, and we were just kind of thrashing out those questions, right? And actually, you know, not just kind of like, well, here's why you're wrong, but let's just talk about what's actually happening, what the role of the US has been, and let's actually get to the truth, right? And we had a really good, you know, discussion and struggle, right? And by the end of it, they were like, okay, I'm coming to April 2nd, right? And they were sharing, it was one day we were thrashing it out, the next day we were out in the streets, and they actually were learning more as they were out there, right? And actually representing for this revolution, learning from what was coming from the stage, the agitation, the different voices, right? And actually getting out there and challenging other people that this is what's happening and why they actually need to be part of this revolution. So it's different people from different backgrounds, different nationalities, people that don't usually come together, right? That are coming together because they hate what's happening and they're tired of, you know, just sitting back and allowing this to happen. And the fact that when people do meet this revolution, when they hear that it doesn't have to be this way, that there is a whole nother way that the world can be, and that they need to get with this revolution, they come with all their questions, you know, and learn more about this. But at the same time, as we're acting to transform themselves, at the same time as we're out transforming the world.
Yeah, I think that's so important. You know, and I heard actually a couple of the people that came out on April 2nd described it, some of the newer people like described it as empowering, right? To not just be, you know, at home depressed about the situation, yelling at your TV screen, all alone, feeling this way, but actually to come out together with others and to have an impact on society, right? Well, that brings me to the points of attention for the revolution clubs that we read at the beginning. And, you know, the first point of attention is we strive to represent the highest interests of humanity, revolution and communism. We don't use the revolution for personal gain. You know, just in terms of your point about, you know, actually leading people to represent for the highest interests of humanity, you know, in opposition to the U.S. and American chauvinism and all this. Why don't you speak a little bit more about these points of attention? Because we're talking about points of attention that we live by, uphold, and fight for, you know, and it has to do with how we live today, but it also has to do with what kind of world we're fighting for.
Right. Well, I think the points of attention for the revolution is not just like a good stand, right? It's not just kind of like how we feel good about ourselves while this world is like, you know, being torn apart, right? But it's actually a way that we embody a whole different future, a whole different society, right? And in a way that people can actually learn more about what this new communism is. I mean, just think about it. Point of attention number 2, we fight for a world where all the chains are broken, right? Point of attention number 3, we fight for a world without borders, right? Like all of these, you know, fighting for what's true, no matter how unpopular. Number 5, right? All of these, you know, points of attention, you know, there is actually going deeper, you know, to how do we get to that kind of world, right? How do we now now actually transform our thinking, but also struggle to actually transform other people's thinking as part of actually, changing the whole world, right? This same New Revolution Club member that kind of has this thing of like, they keep saying, well, I'm trying to change my language, right? I'm trying not to say the word bitch, right? And off of like a whole discussion of like, what that word actually concentrates, right? What the violence against women, right?
And it's a very attractive thing, to have a group of people who are living by and fighting for these points of attention in opposition to the system and the way it trains people to think and act and all the degrading ways that people take up, So, why don't you say a little bit more about for people who hate the way the world is, who do want to do something, who are tired of just being at home, yelling at their TV screen, being pissed off about it by themselves. How can they be part of this Revolution Club? And how can they be involved in Revolutionary May 1st?
Well, right away, right now, block out May 1st from your calendar. Call off of work, get to the nearest protests around you. From Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Bay Area. If you're in Los Angeles, take off of work and come to May 1st. Go on our website and look for the information for these May 1st demonstrations. And this weekend, link up with the Revolution Clubs to be part of meetings that are people coming together to plan these May 1st demonstrations. And get with and join this Revolution Club. These points of attention that you heard us reading is, again, what we live by, what we fight for, what we uphold, and how we struggle with each other, and how we're actually, embodying and fighting for, really what comes after a revolution, right? The kind of society that we're actually fighting to bring into being. And up against, this whole putrid, society. And look, people don't recognize how putrid shit is until they see something radically different, right? When they actually see from people feeling so hopeless and feeling like there's nothing they can do about it, right? That when they see a force that's serious, that's putting forward a whole different way that the world can be, you need to get with that. You need to represent that. You need to learn more about that. Go to the Bob Avakian Interviews on this channel. Watch all 3 parts and spread the word about that. Watch the weekly YouTube show, the RNL Show, that clubs all over the country are, this is a way that they bring in brand new people to learn about this revolution, to be part of discussions, to go deeper into what this revolution is actually about.
Well, I want to thank you, Michelle Xai, for coming on the RNL Show, and be there May 1st. We don't accept their future. A better world without exploitation and oppression is possible.
Now is the time to get organized for a real revolution.
Last week on the RNL Show, we spoke of a demonstration that the RevComs called last Sunday, April 2nd, under 3 slogans. The first one was "No U.S.-NATO war with Russia and stop U.S. threats against China." Second, "No World War III, it's this system, not humanity, that needs to become extinct." And last, "We don't accept their future, it's time to get organized for a real revolution." Now, the demonstrations were small, but they were militant, and they struck a deep chord. I want to show you a TikTok that the RevComs put up early in the week that went to 1.1 million views with thousands and thousands of comments. Watch.
Fuck the U.S. and all its might!
Fuck the U.S. and all its might!
For humanity, we will fight!
For humanity, we will fight!
No U.S.-NATO war with Russia!
No U.S.-NATO war with Russia!
Stop U.S. threats against China! No World War III! It is this system and not humanity that needs to become extinct! Now is the time to get organized for a real revolution! Now we're gonna fucking march and we're gonna shred those flags as we do!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Slavery, genocide, and war!
Slavery, genocide, and war!
5, 6, 7, 8!
5, 6, 7, 8!
America was never great!
America was never great!
People need to wake up
and stand up now. The dangerous dynamics in the world are being set by these rival and contending imperialists. We need to change this by standing up for the interests of humanity.
That was the RevComs on Hollywood Boulevard, in a small march, but a militant march that resonated with a lot of different people. And this TikTok got 1.1 million views in just a few days and thousands of comments. I'm going to just read you a few of them that give you some sense of the deep well of anger that exists with what is being put forward to the people of the world around what's going on with this war in Ukraine and the threats against China and the simmering anti-imperialism and anti-US feeling that exists internationally as well as in this country. So here's the first of these comments that I'm going to read now. Stand up, Americans. Stand up for the good of humanity. Big thanks to you guys who reason normally. Keep the fire burning. And I'm in the US, but can I join? I'm Ethiopian, and I fucking hate America. Yes, yes, yes. How can I join the fight for freedom of humanity and affordable living, for working each day with a household of 3 people in a 2-bedroom? Salute you, brothers and sisters from South Africa. We are tired of US bullying. And last, I really wish to join you from Mozambique, Africa. USA have been oppressing African countries for so long, so now enough is enough. We are tired of it. We are ready to protest against the USA government. So we just thought it was important to share that with you as a brief report on the protests last week and the continuing work that we're going to be doing for a revolutionary understanding of the war in Ukraine and the need to get mobilized to stop these wars, and that's going to be a big part of what we do on May 1st.
Blood on the border. 39 migrants killed in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico.
Anguished screams of desperation from a woman searching for her husband.
Last week, the day after a fire in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico detention center killed 39 migrants from 6 Latin American countries. Families of 3 young men, Dixon Cordova, Edin Umaña, and Jesus Alvarado, gathered in Protección, an impoverished village in western Honduras. The 3 had set out together, trying to get to the US. Each hoped to find a job and send money back to their families. Their names were on a list of victims, but there was no telling whether the 3 were dead or alive. Jose Ramos, father of one of the men, said of the ordeal he and others were experiencing.
Como debía de ser, pero igual, hay razón. No, es duro, pues, estos golpes no son insoportables, aunque uno quiera ser fuerte, pero.
In Juarez, on March 28th, a Venezuelan woman, who herself had recently been released from a women's detention center, said at a protest demanding justice for the victims of the fire, "We were there not long ago. It could have been us dying in there like animals, like pigs being slaughtered in a fire. Does it matter? Do our names matter to anyone?" The choices people confront. Why would someone pack everything they have into a backpack and head out on a 2,000-mile journey by foot? Why would they choose to leave everyone they love and set off to a place they've never been? A place where people speak a language they don't know, where many people hate them without knowing anything about them, except the color of their skin. Why would they go knowing they will be terrorized, perhaps robbed, beaten and raped by police, military, and criminal gangs? On the 1,000 to 1 shot that they'll make it all the way to the US and land a job bussing tables, or processing chickens, or cleaning other people's homes. People make choices, but they don't get to choose what choices they can make. The migrants who died in Juarez faced dreadful choices. But who set up those choices? What determined that those were the choices? As Bob Avakian wrote in More on Choices and Radical Changes, people don't make choices in a vacuum. They do it in the context of the social relations they're enmeshed in and the options they have within those relations, which are not of their own choosing. They confront those relations. They don't choose them. The three young people from Honduras confronted the relations of the imperialist system. Imperialism isn't just an intellectual word. It has real meaning and real consequences in the lives of millions. It crushes lives and spirits. It poisons the planet. It shapes every choice people make, whether they know it or not. Look through the many entries in Revolution's American Crime Series for exposures of what U.S. imperialism has done in Mexico and Central America. Decades of relentless exploitation, genocidal wars, destruction of subsistence agriculture, rampant contamination of the land, water, and air, acute, accelerating, and devastating climate change, mass impoverishment in the countryside, millions of people forced into urban slums. Read how the U.S. has created a catastrophe of human suffering in Venezuela. All this is imperialism in action. The imperialist system forces countless people to lead lives that are unbearable and unlivable, while it enriches a handful who control not only enormous wealth, but the means of producing that wealth, the ruling class of the system. Imperialism constrains and confines the choices people face so that a woman facing the possibility of starvation for her young daughter decides to carry her child on a trek that lasts months through freezing cold and broiling heat, knowing that if she makes it all the way, she will have to cross through razor wire tunnels patrolled by heavily armed robocops. She will be told to show her papers before she can go any further, and she very likely will be thrown back onto the streets of a city prowled by soldiers and police with automatic weapons and looking for migrants. A city infamous throughout the world for violence against women. These are the kinds of choices imperialism gives masses of people. Think of the lives of Dixon Cordova, Edin Umaña, and Jesus Alvarado. Think of the tens of millions like them, penniless and stateless, vilified by American fascists and racists, kicked around like footballs to serve the needs of different sections of the ruling class in this country. Their choices were made before they were born. Think of the system that caused all this suffering. And then think of what Bob Avakian has said about the choice that confronts us all.
And in fundamental terms, we have two choices. Either live with all this and condemn future generations to the same, or worse, if they have a future at all, or make revolution.
All right, so we have reached the end of episode 142 of the RNL, The Revolution Nothing Less show. Andy?
Yep. We'll see you next week on Thursday night, as always, at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, and 8 p.m. Eastern Time.